Hello, this is Renee Hahn with William Ravis Real Estate, bringing you the monthly Naples real estate market update. It is hard to believe that it is already February, and not only is it already February, but we are headed into the second half of the year. I can't believe it, but I'm looking forward to March because March is my birthday month. So, and because my birthday is at the end of the month, you better believe that I will be enjoying most of it and milking it for every inch. Without further ado, I want to jump in. As always, disclaimer that the numbers that we're sharing are always going to be the prior month. Naples Area Board of Realtors likes to make sure they have a month to reconcile the numbers so that the information that we are delivering to you is accurate and up to date. So we're going to be talking about the numbers in January, even though we are in the month of February. And I want to start with acknowledging that January is typically the beginning of our traditional high season in selling. So everyone has been anxious to see how this season would start, especially because this has been an ever-changing environment over the last several years that we will not go back and recount all of the reasons for that, but it has continued to be fluid. And so going into the season, everybody was anxiously waiting to see how buyers, sellers, and the market in general would behave. I would start by saying that this has probably been, in my view, one of the slower high seasons that I've seen out of the past 5. So buyer traffic has been a little bit slower. And what you may or may not know about me is I intentionally split my time as much as I can control it to about 50-50 listings and buyers. That changes at different times. Sometimes I can run very heavy with listings, which means that my availability to support new buyers is a little bit limited. But I do that by design to make sure that I stay in tune with what's going on in the buyer pool as much as what's going on the listing side. And I really use those two to help support the other side of the transaction so that I have a good pulse, a finger on the pulse. And so because of that, I tend to stay pretty up to date with buyer behavior, not just what I'm seeing on my own listings, but what I'm experiencing with the pool of buyers that I work with. The good news is interest continues to be high in our area. There's no question. On a daily basis, I have new people reaching out to me to talk about the opportunity of becoming a homeowner in Naples. So that's good. I think that's going to continue, and there's a lot of reasons for that. So when I say buyer traffic has slowed, I'm talking about actual traffic to go to showings, to make offers and whatnot. So I've seen a definite slowdown again compared to, to other previous high seasons. And I think because of that, I've tended to see a little bit more what I call panicked behavior. People, instead of holding tight with confidence on what your price point might be, there are sellers out there and agents that can be a little overreactive. So, come the second week in January, where showing traffic should be much higher, if they're not seeing that, then some reactions are to immediately drop prices. I had a listing recently down in Naples Reserve, a very popular coastal community. I actually had 2 properties on the market, and we had one, what I'll call squirrely homeowner in the neighborhood. And I'm not kidding when I say every week she was dropping her price again and again and again. And the problem is, we're competing against that. We felt comfortable with our pricing. We held firm. We ultimately got them under contract, but I had to give assurance to my sellers that, look, just because traffic is light doesn't mean that the values have eroded. Let's make sure that we stay in touch with what's going on in the market. Let's watch the statistics and make sure we make data-driven decisions, but let's hold our course and not chase the rabbits down the hole, because that just creates a frenzy. And a lot of times I truly believe it's self-inflicted. So I don't think we have a big cratering of values. I think this continues to be a very popular place for people to want to buy. And if we could just get out of our own ways and recognize that different seasons and different times of the year are going to behave differently and not overreact by immediately making price adjustments. So With that, I just wanted to see if I had anything else in my notes that I wanted to make on an overall. But again, I would say that demand for the area and interest in the area continues to stay strong. And that's for a multitude of reasons, right? Tax savings by becoming a homeowner down here, particularly a full-time homeowner, weather, lifestyle, all of those things. I did, before we dive into the 6 areas that I typically talk about as part of our market update, I did want to share a couple of what I found to be interesting high-level stats with you. So, and these are statistics that come out of, again, Naples Area Board of Realtors, where they manage the system that we all put our listings into, and all the transactions get recorded on. So anything on MLS gets built into these statistics. The price range with the strongest sales was 2 million and above. So if you look at January, the bedroom count with the strongest sales was 3 bedrooms. And it's interesting that one is. Most of us intuitively know that. I had a buyer come to town this week that's at a very generous price point, but he and his family would like a 5-bedroom home or larger, and they like luxury communities. And I'll tell you what, there's just not out there, because 3 bedrooms do tend to be the most popular. 3 plus a den, very popular. So it can sometimes be difficult to find the very much larger homes, even when you've got a generous budget. The property type with the strongest sales was single family. So single family continues to be a good option for people. Not that condos don't sell and that they don't sell well, but the strongest type of sale right now has been single family. So let's dive into the monthly stats. Inventory. We always say that inventory is important because a balanced market is actually usually good for everyone. So inventory between December and January actually grew 10%. By the way, that's not a flag. You would expect in December, you've got the holidays. Most people, if they can, are going to wait potentially till January to list. So going up 10% between December and January is nothing alarming. But if you look over the last 6 months, so if you look down here in this gray box, we've been pretty steadily running inventory. It fluctuates from around 2,100 up to just under 2,500. But without regard to the seasonal ebbs and flows that happen, I thought it was pretty interesting that on a 6-month view, we actually stayed hovering around those same inventory numbers despite changes in the seasonal timing. Again, we would expect to see a jump in the number of homes for sale in January to follow the increase in travelers to the area who are potential buyers. But when you look at inventory compared to the same time last year, it's pretty startling that it's up 123%. So when you're looking at real estate, again, in a balanced market, you want demand and inventory to be a little bit more closely aligned, because obviously if demand goes down, inventory goes up. What does that do? It tends to negatively affect house values, and then the reverse of that can be the same. Now let's look at the new listing activity. So new listings in January of 2023 rose 74.5% compared to the month prior in December. Now again, we talked about inventory. The way inventory goes up is obviously the number of new listings. So if you've got a set number of homes and new listings are coming on at a high rate, then obviously you're going to continue to see growth over time in inventory, unless you're selling at a fast pace, and we'll talk about that as well. So it was 3.2%. So December, I don't know if this is, yes. Sorry, year over year, it was the 3.2%. So January of 2021 was 1,297. Now we're sitting at 1,338. But if you look at December to January, it grew from 765 to 1,338. Good news is that the new listings coming onto the market seem to be evenly split between single family and condos. So there's inventory in both of those areas, doubled since January, which gives buyers more to look at. And at the end of the day, if buyers feel like inventory is too low and there's not much to choose from, they may self-select out of areas because they may not want to compromise of purchasing something that isn't really what they want. So, one way to stimulate, we talk about stimulating the economy, right? One way to stimulate buying activity is to have more inventory for people to choose from, and thus it brings more buyers back into the market. Spike in new listings is promising turn of events. Again, because January January was up 122.7%. We talked about inventory. So again, that makes it a good enticement for buyers to re-enter the market if they've taken a pause. Now let's look at pending sales. Pending sales were up January over December, so that's good. You can see December, we had 682 pending sales. January, we were up to 1,092 homes that went under contract, so that's good. Compared to January of 2019, we had 660 pending sales. January of 2020, we had 892 pending sales. But January of this time last year, we're down 20.5%. January of 2022, we had 1,373 pending sales. So again, looking at a comparator, it's all a matter of what your perspective is, right? So you go back to January of 2019 or January 2020, and we feel good. We're up in pending sales from then. If you're looking at January 2022, we're down nearly 21%. So new listings were higher year over year, as I shared in the previous slide, but pending sales went down. So what does that mean? It means more is coming on the market than is going off the market. You don't want that, excuse me, to get too off kilter, because if you continue to run at a rate where more is coming on the market than is selling, eventually that inventory continues to creep up and can get into an unhealthy space. I don't think we're there right now, but it's something to keep an eye on. Now let's talk about days on market. And we've been talking about closed sales first. I was looking ahead to the next slide. My apologies. So closed sales in January decreased 33.8% to 555 homes closing in the month of January. If you look at January of 2022, we had 839 homes closing. So less closed. And by the way, you'd kind of expect this, right? If pending sales have been going down, then eventually closed sales go down too. Now, it also is down from December. So December, we had 636 closings, and in January, we had 555. Now, if you follow the lifeline of a closing, there are some properties that close in a matter of weeks. More often than not, you usually have a 30-day closing. So you kind of have to back into this and say, well, if December closings were up over where January are, that kind of means you probably had more things going under contract in November than you did January. Again, just backing into that. According to the report, the only home type that experienced a rise in closed sales in January compared to the prior year were condominiums that were priced between $500,000 and $1 million. And that price segment actually had a 4.2% increase. Everything else went down. Now let's jump to days on market. In my prior several months, we've talked about the fact that days on market continues to creep up. So if you look at days on market, again, this number to me is always a little misleading. It's something you've got to look for because it does over time let you compare. But I'm starting to see many more properties run a lot longer than 54 days on market. So you just have to remember when we're averaging these numbers, it doesn't mean everything's selling at 54 days. You have some selling at less and some selling at more. But it was an increase of 125% year over year. So we all know, look back to even June. In June, we were selling, the average days on market was 18. We're up to 54, but it's been going up slowly at an average level. We're definitely seeing homes take longer to sell, and that brings some price advantages for buyers. However, there's still plenty of examples that with a highly desirable home, particularly if it's renovated in a great area, there are examples of things selling quicker than average. And I always tell people, make sure you've got a good realtor, because if all you're ever doing is looking at the national behavior or even the Naples wide market and you say, oh, 54 days, well, gosh, I've got time. You're going to be frustrated when you find the perfect property and it gets an offer on it the morning it hits. That does still occasionally happen. I've had several examples of homes that in the last month I had multiple offers on. So there isn't a one size fits all on here. Make sure you've got a really good, talented, and educated, experienced agent that can look within the community and the house type that you're looking at, the home type you're looking at, and give you some advice on what they're seeing so that you're just not looking at these consolidated statistics, if you will. Now let's look at median close price. And last month I introduced another slide beyond the normal ones I have to look at close price versus original list price. I went ahead and did that again because I want to show you the graph, but let's talk first about median close price. So in January, the median close price was 600. I think the rise in home options during January, you would expect if inventory shooting up and outpacing sales, you'd have perhaps more price erosion. And we've stayed, again, generally speaking, pretty strong in pricing. So that's good. If you look year over year, it's still up 11%. But again, I would argue that that is a story of mix because if you look at sales over the last 12 months, the current report that NABOR produces shows an entire group of homes priced under 500,000 that have nearly dried up. If you're looking for a single family home under 500,000, or even in some cases a condo, it is really hard to find something good. And so if you've got the whole bottom of your pricing tier come off, how can your median not be higher? So again, we've gotten past the leapfrogging that happened late the year before and at the tail end of 2000, I guess it would be 21, and the beginning of 2022, that's gone. But prices still tend to be stable. Just be careful when you're looking at this 11% year over year, that you don't let that give you a false sense of values that are still appreciating at 11% rate. That's not the case. It's in good part to mix. But again, still strong market. Interestingly enough, the median closed price of single family homes actually decreased 2%. So when we blend it all together, you're seeing an 11% year over year increase in median home price. But when you look at the single family homes, it actually decreased 2.7% between December to January. Now, again, the stat is both a good and a bad. It drives me crazy. It's helpful information, but you have to know what goes into it. But median close price for condominiums actually increased 6%. So not surprising due to the high demand for properties in the 300,000 and below price category. Condominiums in that price category had the highest reported median closed price increase. So that particular category, 300,000 and below, the price increase went up 16.1%. They were the only price category that reported a decrease in inventory. So they went down 13.1% in January. So again, that's those balanced numbers I talked about. Inventory went down, pricing went up. We also had, I think is notable, I like to look at how many houses are coming back on the market, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. And I also like to see how many homes had price drops. So in the month of January, 1,548 properties did a price drop. Some of them may have done multiple ones, but there were 1,548 price drops in the month of January. And I think if my memory serves me right, there were 291 properties that went under contract but came back on the market for one reason or another in the month of January. So you've got to be watching those types of things. Now, what I want to do is show you this chart that doesn't look like the others because I only added added it to the package out of interest. Look at this chart. This is what are things selling for compared to what they originally came on the market. So you go back to this chart starts, I think I did a 12-month look. At the first 4 months in that 12-month look back, we're all selling on average at 100% of the list price. Look what it's been doing over time. So even in February, it came down a little bit more. What does this mean? It means that the days of listing it and expecting that your home is going to get a full price offer and maybe even sell above is the law of statistics are not in your favor. You have to be ready to negotiate. Buyers are expecting that. I will tell you, I have a number of buyers that are kind of sitting back and saying, I know everybody says Naples market's strong, but I'm waiting for that price drop. It may or may not happen. The views locally have been that you're not going to see huge price erosion, but mentally buyers are looking for that. I've had buyers that I support wanting to make considerably lower offers. Now, their offers aren't getting accepted, but there's a little bit of that mentality playing out. The key is that things are going on average right now about 95, 96% of ask price, original ask price. So this takes into consideration that there may have actually been a seller price reduction in this mix. But again, it's interesting to see what's happened to pricing and kind of thinking about both your pricing strategy as well as your offer strategy as a buyer. So I hope this data is helpful. I will put in a plug. The place that I have this video posted that you've accessed it on is part of a much bigger page. And I would really encourage you, not just in these once a month updates, but anytime you are moved to do so, go visit this page, because if you scroll down, I will tell you it works better on a computer than it will on your iPhone, because the way the graphs work, unfortunately, and I can't change it, it truncates the right-hand side when you're looking at it on your phone. But if you look at these on your desktop, these graphs are great down below because they're interactive. You can see breakouts by price. There's direct links at the top that'll quickly take you to the place on the web page. But there's really good and helpful information. And this stuff isn't just valuable when you're looking to buy or sell. Any asset that is valuable to you, you should keep a finger on the pulse. If you've got an investment portfolio, I hope you're looking at it once in a while to see how your investment's performing. Same thing with real estate. It's one of your largest assets you're going to own. Keep a pulse on it. And as always, feel free to call me if you have any questions or you want to dive deeper into a particular segment of the market that may be more relevant for you. My name is Renee Hahn. I'm with William Ravis Real Estate, and you can reach me at 239-287-2576. Or as always, visit my webpage, www.yournaplesexpert.com, which leads you to know that my email, if you want to reach me, is Renee, RENEE, at yournaplesexpert.com. Thanks, and have a wonderful finish to your February. I look forward to connecting again in March. Cheers.